So let me just give you a little bit around why we're hosting these lunch and learns. So for anyone who was on last week's, you will have seen that we spoke about diabetes on World Diabetes Day. We have a number of lunch and learn sessions around International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And you'll see on my backdrop that I'm supporting International Day of Persons with Disabilities. So International Day of Persons with Disabilities is Able2's platinum event. So we have got a platinum event on the 3rd of December at the BT Tower. So there are watch parties that you can sign up to, and a ballot's gone out today for if you are interested in joining us on the day at the BT Tower as well. Today's session will be focusing on ableism and the use of ableist language. So let me give you a little bit around why we're having this important discussion on ableism and ableist language. So it's a topic that often goes unnoticed, yet it has a profound impact on the lives of people with disabilities. Ableism is the discrimination or prejudice against individuals with disabilities. It's pervasive in our society and it manifests in various forms. So from subtle microaggressions to overt discrimination. One of the most insidious forms of ableism is the use of ableist language. Words like crazy and lame may seem harmless, but they perpetuate harmful stereotypes and reinforce negative attitudes towards people with disabilities. In this session, we'll delve into the harmful effects of ableist language and we'll explore how we can promote inclusive language practices. So we'll discuss the impact of ableist language on people with disabilities. We'll have a look at how we identify and challenge ableist language. And we'll have a look at strategies for fostering inclusive language use and the role of education and awareness in combating ableism. So by the end of this session, you'll learn a little bit around the different examples of ableist language and what to use instead. We hope to inspire you to become more mindful of your language and to actively promote inclusivity. So I'm going to ask Praveen to talk a little bit around ableism first of all, and then what we'll do is we'll talk around the ableist language and then what we can use instead. And what we'll look to do as well is we want to kind of have this as a discussion. So if there is things that you want to add while we're talking, please do put your hand up, but we will have time at the end for Q&A as well. So Praveen, thank you.
Thank you so much, Nuran, and thank you so much for arranging this important call around this topic, which is very relevant and it remains relevant to us in this present day, as it was when we discussed it last time around in one of these calls. So I'm Praveen Koliguri. I'm one of the co-chairs of Able2 Network for Group. In terms of what ableism is, I think I'll go through a definition that is there. So ableism refers to the discrimination, prejudice, stigmatization faced by individuals with disabilities, whether visible or invisible. It covers attitudes, behaviors, and policies that marginalize and exclude people based on their disabilities. And ableism manifests in various ways, which could be things like social exclusion or limited accessibility or negative stereotypes. And I think there is another aspect of it that we need to be aware of, which is the internalized ableism as well, which is when it occurs that when individuals with disabilities internalize the society's ableist beliefs themselves and start to believe that their disability makes them less worthy or capable. So this is self-directed prejudice that can lead to low self-esteem, self-doubt, and a diminished sense of one's abilities. The reason why I'm talking about internalized ableism is to say that sometimes the language that we are going to touch upon now, that as Nuran suggested, is sometimes used by disabled people themselves without understanding what the origins of this language is and what impact it might have on others, and how it perpetuates ableism in a way. So yeah, and I think that's where I would say that is the reason why we want to talk about it, because there needs to be a conversation around it. Language evolves as we are moving ahead as a society. So I think it's time for people to understand what are the bad habits they might have got, and learn from it in a way. So I'll stop there and hand over back that to you, Nurun. You're on mute.
That it would help if I weren't on mute. Thank you so much. Thank you, Praveen. Thanks for doing that great intro as well on ableism. And one of the things that you touched on is internal ableism. And I think it's a really important one, because what you'll notice with anyone with sort of disabilities or conditions, they can have that almost internal ableism where they don't want to declare themselves, because there isn't a real stigma that's attached to disabilities, and it does exist. So you touched on something that's quite important there for sure. Are there any questions before we start to sort of talk about some of the ableist language? No problem at
No,
all.
thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. No problem. So the first one then, and this one you probably hear quite a lot, because it's one of those that it can be said quite commonly within sort of teams. And Praveen and I, what we'll be doing is we'll talk through the phrases, and we'll talk about why to avoid them. So Praveen, why should we avoid the phrase falling on deaf ears? You're on mute this time.
It's my turn now. So yeah, so I guess I think falling on deaf ears is one of those terms which kind of seems very harmless, and to imply that people are not listening what someone's saying. But I think if you understand the underlying meaning of it, it implies that not listening to someone is similar to being deaf, which stigmatizes deafness in a way. So I guess I think that causes, I think that is a classic example of ableist language in a way. So I think as an alternative, you could say I'm being ignored, or my request is going unnoticed.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Praveen. So there's another one as well that we hear commonly, and that's blind leading the blind. And the reason why we should avoid that is it suggests that blindness equates to incompetence or lack of insight. What are the alternatives that can be used instead, Praveen?
We could say that it could be inexperienced, guiding the inexperienced in a way, or uh, we are acting without direction.
Great. They're really great examples there. And just so you're all aware as well, we will be sharing these examples after the call on Workplace, so you'll have somewhere that you can access them as well. And then of course in my intro I mentioned that we use terms like mad or crazy. Why should we avoid those, Praveen?
Uh, I think those language. I think yeah. I still feel like I do hear a lot of people on our calls saying it's mad busy, or it's crazy how things are in a way. But I think it has an implication around mental health, right? So I think there is a stigma associated with mental health, and people do not talk about mental health as it is, because of these. And these words are a negative connotation to what mental health issues people may have, and I think that is the reason why I think those terms should be avoided.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like trivializing mental health, isn't it?
Yeah,
What could we use instead?
I think you could say unreasonable,
Yeah.
or you could say outlandish or unrealistic.
Great. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And you're so right. We hear it way too often, which stops, people talking about mental health, exactly as you said. How about crippled by? So like, for example, I'm crippled by debt.
Yeah, so I think it compares. a non-physical limitation to a physical disability in a way. So I think that is the reason why I think that word is problematic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what do you think we could use as an alternative instead?
So you could say things like I'm burdened by or I'm overwhelmed by as an alternative to crippled by.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. And then I guess like other ones that we hear as well are things like paralyzed by fear.
Yes, yes, totally. And I think it's a similar one where it equates a temporary feeling that you may have to a physical disability. So yeah, I think that is why it is problematic.
Perfect. Thank you. And then I guess like the alternatives for that, you could say you're frozen by fear or overcome with fear so that you're not using the words like paralyzed instead. And then we've got things, and this falls into like the neurodivergent side of things as well. So like ADD or ADHD, like just casually used to describe being distracted. So you might hear people saying, "Oh God, I'm being really ADHD." What's that doing, Praveen?
Yeah, I think that is a really uh, relevant one currently because I think there is a lot of stigma around going around saying that everyone is a bit ADHD at the moment or things like that. So it kind of is problematic because it minimizes the experience of people who have ADHD, which is a neurodivergent neurodevelopmental condition. So I think it trivializes their experience because you you are not ADHD, so you shouldn't be saying that this is a bit ADHD on my part, unless you are, you really
Yeah.
are. So I think the alternatives you could use to say is that I'm getting distracted or I'm struggling to focus at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're very easily just to replace. It's just we need to maybe even create better habits of taking that language out and just saying, you know what, I'm really easily distracted today, or I'm trying to multitask, and do you know what I mean? So it's definitely one that can be replaced quite easily. And then we also hear the term manic, Praveen. Um, which people use it to describe like being really busy, and we hear it all the time. In fact, I heard someone say it to me last week. I've had a really manic week this week. It's been really manic today. Why do we not want to use the term manic?
Yeah, so I think manic, the history of it lies in describing symptoms of bipolar disorder.
Hmm.
So I think I think that is the reason why we should avoid that because I think not a lot of people are probably aware of the origin of where manic as a situation or as a symptom comes from in a way.
Absolutely. And we could replace that quite easily as well, can't we, Praveen? What words could we use
Yeah,
instead?
I think you could say it's very busy or hectic or it's very active. The situation is very active currently.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Praveen. And then we've got things like lunatic or nutcase, even these.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I hear less of it these days in
agree.
a way because I think people are aware of these two terms as with the R word that used to be quite common not too long ago, but I think people are realizing it. But I think it is another of those terms which trivializes mental health conditions uh, for a person who probably is being unreasonable to you or that you're describing a person who is irrational or unpredictable in that situation, so use those words instead in a way.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for that, Praveen. Amanda's put a really interesting one into the chat, and she said also others include being a bit OCD or throwing a fit
Ah,
too.
yeah.
OCD gets used quite casually, doesn't it, to describe tidiness. Why might we
Yes.
avoid that, Praveen?
Yeah, I think it totally minimizes the experience of people who have real issues with OCD in a way. I don't think people can be a bit OCD in a way, because you either are OCD or not OCD. You can I think by saying that I'm a bit OCD, it kind of give impression that it is a condition that can be turned on and turned off like that, which trivializes again the experience of people who have OCD. And I think the words they are looking for, I think it's use of clumsy language there, where you could say that I'm very particular about keeping my area clean, or I'm I'm very detail oriented. If that is what you're referring to in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one, I think we hear more less of these days, but terms like spaz or spastic, which might still exist in some people's language, why should we avoid saying those?
Yeah, I think that is definitely a term which is probably seeing the end of its day, because I think scope charity. I don't know if you if you know about it. It used to be called something like Spastics People's Charity or something along those lines. So I think people have moved on from that language because that describes. Uh, it's a derogatory term historically used to describe people with physical disabilities in a way. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
And what might the alternatives be for that
yeah.
word?
You could use things like awkward or uncoordinated in a way for now, but I think coordination also falls into the part of DPD. So I think, yeah, I think rather than describing using that word, to be prescriptive about what you're exactly referring to, and use those terms in a way.
Absolutely. Fabulous. Thank you. Next one we've got is basket case. We hear this, I think, when we're more out and about. Someone might refer to a friend they know as a basket case, or even their love interest as a basket case. Oh God, that person's being a basket case today. How
Yeah, I
might we?
think, yeah, yeah, totally. Uh, yeah, I think basket case historically was used to refer people with either severe disabilities or multiple disabilities in a way. So I think that kind of shows how ableist language has been naturalized in the way things are done in a way. And I think the word they are trying to find uh, is at in this point is that they're being stressed out or being overwhelmed with the situation. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Amanda, I have noticed that you've put something else in. Are you okay to come off of mute and just tell us a little bit more about that?
Sorry, I didn't want to sort of put hands up and keep, like, I just thought it was good to add it in if you were going to record them, sort of thing.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
Unfortunately, I do have teens and I hear the language that they come out with, and obviously I correct. But yeah, it's one of the new ones that seems to have come out is you're being a sped. That was a sped thing that you did, and it's all around saying that you're doing something stupid or silly, and it's saying that it's equating it to being special educational needs where you might
Mm.
not be doing something what's called normal. So that's how they sort of perceive it in the teen world, or they just say you're being special,
Yeah.
which is obviously derogatory to all those who have special educational needs, who aren't backwards or anything else. Even if I'm using that term incorrectly, and I apologise if I am, but they are individual and have their own levels of intelligence and shouldn't be derogatized in that way. And yes, when I've heard it in my vicinity, I will like pull them up completely. Not that my children use it very often. It's usually when they've been in a bigger group and I can hear them all talking about it. Like when like a group of girls come over to my house or whatever, then I will raise it with them. But yeah, that seems to be the latest trend.
I
Perfect.
wasn't
Thank
aware
you.
of that. Thank you, Amanda, for raising that. But it kind of shows that how the language evolves, and we find new names as well. So yeah, I think want to keep an eye out.
And
Absolutely. Go on,
just the one
Amanda. Sorry.
before when I was saying around the throwing a fit, a few of our friends are epileptic and they are very, very aware that people use it incorrectly. And they have, even said in like in front of me before, not where I've said it, but they said it really hurts them when people use it. because it diminishes what they go through. And one of the girls I know is my daughter's friend. She has the silent type, so it just like stops her in a tracks for like 30 seconds. And unless you're really noticing, like if she's in the middle of talking, maybe she'll stop, or if she'll say to you, sorry, what was that again? You might not have even noticed she's had an episode, but it really hurts her. She gets very tired, and therefore people just trivializing a tantrum being the same as you having an epileptic fit, it really makes them uncomfortable that people are using that language.
Amanda, I'm
And
really go on, sorry, Praveen.
no, I was just going to say, I think throwing a fit also gives an impression that it is something you have under your control, that you
Yeah.
can produce at a time. So it kind of also leads to the fact that people don't believe others when this language is being used. What is the implication on people who hearing it is that they associate that with, actually, is that something they have a control on when this happens in a way as well.
You're absolutely right, Praveen, and I'm glad you brought that one up, Amanda. I'll be recording a conversation with someone on our committee who actually has epilepsy, and I wasn't aware of having an epileptic fit. And you could be like sort of staring out in space, and you're actually having a fit. So we're going to do a
there's so many different
spotlight.
types. So people just think of the ones that ball you flat on the floor and you're shaking, but there's many different types.
You're absolutely right, and we'll do a spotlight on different colleagues in the run up to International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And of course, we know some of the content on Openreach Workplace isn't always accessible on the BT group, so I'll share them with either Praveen or Abigail to share onto your workplace page as well. But thank you so much, Amanda. Aisha, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to share something like personal. So I think sometimes we often forget as well that not everyone will have been, disability can come at any time, or any sort of life-changing events can happen at any time. And I've been guilty of this as well with my own partner, where, I've said to him things like when he's asked me for something, and it could be people in your team as well, whatever, where he's asked me for something and I said, can't you see it's in front of you? And then forgetting totally that actually he's lost part of his eyesight. And you forget sometimes, and it's extremely hurtful because he's let it go a few times and then said to me, I can't see properly, and I wouldn't be asking you if I couldn't. So I know we're talking about the language, but I think it's also about having a bit of an awareness as well, that actually the things that sometimes we forget, I guess, and especially if we've got teams and we're leading teams and things have happened, that actually we have to be quite in tuned that what they may have had before is not necessarily their reality right now. And actually, they may not tell you how insensitive it actually is. And to me, I didn't think it was insensitive. For me, it's like, oh, you're just being lazy, which is a completely wrong attitude to have. But it's just something that I'm so used to, until he actually said to me that is extremely hurtful. And I wouldn't be asking you if I couldn't. So I just wanted to share that sometimes we forget that angle as well,
No,
of what people are going through.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing that, Aisha, because actually this is something that's personal to you, and something that you've said where you're going, you know what, hands up, I say things wrong too. And it's about that awareness, isn't it? It's getting that awareness into all of us, where we're going, that term's not okay. It's not okay to use. And one of the things you touched on is one of the things that I'll always say with disabilities, impairments, or conditions. It's one of those it can touch you at any point in your life. You can literally get a condition at any stage of your life. You could have a life-altering event, which then leaves you, paralyzed or something different. So it's definitely something that we would ask everyone within the company to be allies of. So yeah, if you're not following the Able2 page either on the BT group or Openreach, here's a plug to follow follow us, and we'll put that into the chat as well. We've had another one from Anam, and Anam said, people casually using terms around getting diabetes by eating too much sugar. This isn't true. Praveen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that clearly isn't true. So I think that is problematic on its own. So yeah, thank you, Adam, for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've shared like the diabetes call on Workplace today. And if it's not out on to Workplace just yet, like, i.e. on the BT Group one, we'll be sharing it a little bit later as well. And Aisha, I can see you've added something as well to say, or if you have a slice of cake or something sweet and someone says that's diabetes on a plate. You're absolutely right, because I think what we're saying is it's trivializing people's conditions, and actually diabetes is a lifelong health condition which is classed as a disability. People have to watch what they eat, they have to ensure that their sugar levels are right, they need to make sure that it's not dropping to the safe level of 5, because if you drops below 5, you're no longer safe to drive. And it's a good rhyme, I always think, to remember: under 5, not safe to drive. That's the way I always think of it. But no, thank you so much for sharing those. Praveen, I will go back to a couple more of these phrases. So another one that we hear is maybe schizo, or referring to things as schizophrenic. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's one of those again, which is referring to a physical disability in a way. So yeah, I think the words you're looking for is not describing this, should not be describing a physical condition in a way. So that is an example of ableist language too.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I guess the last one from our examples is tone deaf. What do we think?
Yeah, so I mean, as a person who is actually physically tone deaf myself, I think I have auditory bruising in a way. So it kind of is again suggests, rather than suggesting that I'm not able to follow the tone, it's supposed to be. It suggests an inability to understand and using a physical limitation in a way. So yeah, I think that is definitely an example of that. So you could alternatively, you could say things like insensitive or unaware in a way.
Yeah, and I think tone deaf is definitely one that still exists today. So if you're using it, just be aware that it can be quite derogatory when we are using it. Aisha's also put another example in for us, and she said that's a heart attack waiting to happen. Aisha, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so this is more specific to people, like I've had that quite a few times personally. And I consider myself to be a largish type of woman. So that type of language doesn't sit right with me, because when I think about heart attack, I feel like you're shaming me for what I'm eating, but then also you're sticking a condition that actually people can die from it, or can have consequences off the back of a heart attack that are life-changing. So let me eat what let me eat what I want to eat, and let me deal with it. But why people have to say, and that diabetes on a plate, I've had that quite a few times. And so obviously have, on the diabetes call that we did, I obviously care for my husband's diabetic. So yeah, it's just it's like you're normalizing a serious condition. And then in a way, and I don't know, personally, I feel like you fat shaming people then because they've just had a bit to eat, because that's how I take it. I'm just a woman that loves my food. That's it. And that's it. But you don't need to add comments to the top of that, whether they're said as a joke. But again, heart attacks are serious things,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
have serious consequences for people.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I thought I'd just share that as well.
No, thank you so much. And you're right, it's important that we're allies, and we're allies to our colleagues and anyone around us, really, whether that's when you're out in a pub and listening to someone else talking, or anywhere, right? It's important that we remain allies and remain like aware of what we're saying. So we'll open up to the group in terms of like for questions. So have you got questions for us?
I think we should. I don't have a question, but I'm just filling the gap. That we should definitely write all of these that we have discussed on and add the things that people have suggested very kindly to our list when we share it, because I think that will be a good handy check to have to say, hey, if you're sending, especially like if you are in a big comms role which is going out to a large number of people, I think you have a bigger responsibility. But I think everyone has responsibility for yourself to ensure that ableist language is not creeping into your into your into your language you use. But I think one thing also to say is that people, no one is perfect. So I think when people you do use the language, if you're correcting them, do it with the kindness that we are not ourselves. I guess uh, not. It can happen to anyone. So I think take it in the right spirit when people are saying those two. So we have got hands
Absolutely.
up for. I think
We
we
have.
might have to see
We
some
have.
other examples.
And you're right, Praveen. It's important that we challenge in a kind way. Stuart, you're first up.
Okay, so a little bit of a curveball one, but ableism comments that you can be very internalized as well is, why can't you do that? It's so simple. A 5-year-old should be able to do it. And
Massively important.
yeah, and that can be internalized as well. That your own brain can be telling you that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, actually, Stuart, because you've caught me in a way where I'm thinking that gets said all the time. You do hear parents saying it to their children, and
managers have been known to say it to people as well.
Yeah, not great, not great.
Mm.
What's it saying when someone's saying that, Stuart? What's like the underlying tone?
Basically that the person who says it is not understanding any individual issues or challenges that the colleague has, or say, for example, if there's an autistic who's in a sensory challenging environment that's making them struggle.
Absolutely.
If there's it's kind of along the previous lines with you said about or a visually impaired person, why can't they? How simple is it for them not to that idea of sort of, it's simple, you should be able to should be able to cope. It doesn't they're kind of invalidating your experience, your sensory inputs.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
I think it is kind of not taking into account that people come in all shapes and sizes and be able to and are not respecting the diversity of ways of working in a way. So yeah, thank you.
No,
Stuart.
thank you so much, Stuart. Danny, you have your hand up.
Hi. I was just wondering if maybe at the same time as spreading really important messages like this, that not spreading, but encouraging resilience as well at the same time. I've listened to everything everybody said, and there's so many things that I agree with. And I think it would be, I'd feel terrible if I offended somebody. But there's probably words that have come up today that I have used, and absolutely not in the way of hurting somebody's feelings, probably more as a fun comment or something. And I completely appreciate that sometimes people don't find your comments so funny if it affects them personally. But also, I hear a lot of, oh, you threw that like a girl, or don't cry like a girl, things like that. And language like that in the workplace bothers me, because I'm a girl and I am very, very able, a lot more than some of the men around me. Most of the men who say it, to be fair. So it's stuff like that. But sometimes you just have to walk away, don't you? So how can we work in a place where we don't offend people by saying really inappropriate things or being really clumsy with our language, but also teach people to be resilient as well. Because inside BT, you know, we can all be respectful to each other and hope that your colleagues will treat you how you'd like to be treated. But outside here in the general world, there needs to be some resilience. Would anybody agree, or
I think
or
I
not?
think I think it's a good point you're raising, Danny. So in terms of what a person can do is up to them, right? Like, I mean, how they can take, how what impact it can have on you, we don't have control on, and we don't say that you need to have a thick skin because you you are of a certain type, either a woman or a disabled person in a way. And I think people are resilient because we have all used those terms and we have never been told back. So I think people are resilient already. I think we need to understand that we are in a work environment, and I think if people are feeling uncomfortable, they should be able to have the, I think, be able to take action on it if that is impacting them, because as you said, like, words have implications which have consequences, unintended consequences in some other places. So I think we have to nip it in the bud if we feel confident to do so. But I think the onus should not be on the people to be more resilient, because people are already resilient, and the fact that this happens so widely is is a evidence to that fact in a way.
So maybe then having conversations around approaching issues when somebody has said something offensive or something you deem to be offensive, or, you know, sort of general conversations you overhear at work that you don't think are appropriate, maybe helping people raise that in a constructive manner, because
Yeah.
I'm sure there would be a lot of people who wouldn't feel confident to do so.
Yeah,
Danny,
yeah.
you raise a really good point, and actually the Inclusion Allies, so we've got an Inclusion Allies people network within Openreach, and they've designed a course which does exactly that. It shows you almost how to have those conversations, what to say and what not to say, like how to avoid it, that sort of thing. So actually they've supported this session today, and they're creating some handouts which will get shared across group, so we can have them almost as like sort of knowledge sheets. But yeah, I hope that answers what you've raised, Danny.
But I think it's a good point you're raising, that in terms of how do you give feedback in a clean way. So I think there is a management technique called clean feedback, which is used where you can give feedback to people without actually like in a way which is constructive. So we will add that to the handouts. Thank you, Danny, for raising that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for listening.
Thank you. Harriet, hello.
Hello, everybody. I wanted to point out something. It's sometimes the way you say it. So people that know me on the call know that I'm visually impaired. So I will get a comment, for example, can you see that, Harriet? So they're being understanding. Can you see that? Is it manageable? You know, or they say, did you not see that? So what I do, so that can be more like, well, actually, no. Like, do you know what I mean? So it can quieten down someone, but equally, what I almost take it complimentary that someone's recognizing me as Harriet rather than Harriet the person can't see. So my name comes before visually impaired. So that's how I cope with things like that. And also that helps then for me to be able to say to that person, do you know what? No, I can't see it, can I? You know, so I can then not make them feel bad, but give them an education on what they've said.
Yeah.
To let them know that thanks for the compliment, but you know, I can't, you know, or, you know, if someone is, the greatest, one of the biggest ones is when people think that you're deaf as well as the fact that you can't see. And I do remind people that my hearing is actually X-ray, and I can hear everything and multiple conversations at any one time. You know, they go, "Oh, it's Harriet. She's over there. You know, she doesn't see," and they just think that they think that I've not heard. And I go, "Oh yeah, I'm the one who can't see. I'm over here." You know, so I think it's as a person with personality on how you cope with that. I've got someone in my office who is visually impaired as well, and she would never handle some of the ways that things that go on, or someone will even stand near her and do pointing hand gestures to say she can't see. That's rude in itself without saying the word. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's how we all take it, and we also have to remember, as that person with the impairment, is that we need to educate. We need to say something. If something is said not right, or we're not, we feel it shouldn't be said. I've heard it from different things. Bring it out. Speak about it. So yeah,
absolutely.
I do turn it around, and I try and turn it into a compliment.
Yeah, I think you're touching upon a really relevant topic there, Harriet. I think I know, like, you are resilient, and you do a lot. But I think there is another aspect of it, which is around ableism in a way where people feel like disability is a dirty word, and kind of avoid that language in a way. So people go around saying different abilities or whatever, in a way, which is an example that you are not willing to say that word, that someone is deaf or someone is autistic, and use words around it, which shows that you are uncomfortable having that conversation in a way. So I think if anyone is hearing this, I think when you are trying to describe a person, ask them how they would like to describe them, or use that word which is normal, right? Like, make disability normal. It's not something that needs to be avoided.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Praveen, you've said that really, really well. And we have come to time, but we would like to thank you all for getting involved today. What our ask would be is to take this into your own teams, share it with others around you, share the sheets, and talk about it. Talk about ableism and the use of ableist language. But thank you all so much for coming on today and speaking with us.
Thank you all. Yes.
Thank you.